Hello, everyone. This is Chris Lundy with the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for January 7th. The intention of these weekend updates is to get you caught up on what's happened over the past week and get you up to speed and prepared for the upcoming weekend. But be sure to check the Avalanche forecast before you go out each day at sawtoothavalanche.com. So here we go. So starting off last weekend, we dropped moderate danger. We dropped a moderate danger for all four zones for the first time all winter. So we were starting to head in the right direction. But then surprise, we had our third big multi-day storm of the winter. And this storm lasted from January 3rd through 7th. So the 7th is today, the day I'm recording this on Friday. And the storm is just finally petering out as we speak. And this slide here shows the distribution of the snowfall during the storm. So you can see the hot spot was the Sawtooths, Western Smokies, and the Smoky Crest. They got the most snow with estimated 32 to 40 inches of snow. So the Smoky Crest, if you are not really familiar with what that means when we say that, it's kind of the spine of the Smoky Mountains, especially from like Galena Summit heading out Titus Ridge, continuing on to Baker Creek and then to Dollarhide Summit. So that was really the bullseye for the storm. And then just a reminder, these snowfall amounts are estimates. It's really hard to keep track of how much snow is falling during these multi-day storms, but this is the best we can. And we're sort of estimating these off the water, the snow water equivalent that fell during that time period, not necessarily what the snow sensors were saying. The next kind of the runner-up for storm totals during this was the Banner Summit area with 24 to 30 inches. And then with the direction of the storm, the Boulders, the Pioneers, Wood River Valley, and maybe to a little lesser extent, the Soldiers were really rain shadowed by this event, and they got much less, like the 10 to 20 inch range. Before moving on and talking about how that storm affected conditions, I wanted to take a quick step back and look at how much snowfall we've gotten since December 11th. It is really pretty impressive how much snow we've received since then. So I just picked a handful of weather stations, and with the same caveat as the last slide, that these are just estimates of snow amounts. And again, based on the snow water equivalent that fell at each of these sites. But we received anywhere from 85 inches to 180 inches of snowfall in this period. That's just a little bit less than a month. So really pretty amazing. Looking back at the early winter, it's almost hard to remember back that far at this point. But we were well below average with most sites sitting at 60 to 80% average, the exception being the Soldier Ranger Station. But that's a little bit of a little bit confusing there because that's a pretty low elevation station. And at that point, any amount of snow was probably above average. But let's fast forward to today. And now we are well above average, ranging from 130 to 150 something percent average. So in just this short period of time, in less than a month, we received what could potentially be record snowfall in places. I guess we'll let the dust settle on that and see at the end of the winter when we start looking at the statistics. But overall, we're sitting a lot better than we were a month ago. So back to the most recent storm. So we had snowfall that lasted from January 3rd through today, January 7th. And the snowfall rates peaked on Wednesday nights. We had the most intense period of the storm Wednesday night. We had pretty consistent, moderate to strong winds during the whole storm, and they came from a variety of directions. So we had some pretty strong south winds. We had a lot of westerly winds. We had a few times where the winds wrapped out of the northwest, and we had some little frontal passages. And temperatures remained pretty cool until Thursday, when they really warmed up, and they remained warm into today. And then we had a cold front moving through the area today, so we're expecting temperatures to start to drop. So that was the storm in a nutshell. So a lot of snow and a lot of wind. So this is a video that I took yesterday in Smiley Creek, and you can see just the snow's coming down pretty hard, fast and hard. And you can see how it's warming up. All that snow is melting on my jacket there, and it was a rather wet and damp day out there. If you've been, down in town, especially in the Wood River Valley, where quite a bit less snow has fallen, it's maybe not apparent just how stormy it's been in the mountains. And here's another video that I shot today on Titus Ridge, showing continued snowfall, but especially the strong winds that were going on today. Lots of snow being moved around, being deposited by that wind and loading those leeward slopes. So as if the 2 to 3 feet of new snow wasn't enough, now we have even more being transported by those winds. So concerns that we had during the storm, obviously the wind slab formation was number one. So a lot of new snow to be blown around, and pretty consistent multi-day winds led to a lot of wind slab formation. And between the new snow and that wind transported snow, we're adding a lot of weight to buried weak layers. Primarily concerned about old October facets near the ground. Those would have the potential to release a very large avalanche, but also some sporadic newer weak layers that we've observed and others have observed in the upper part of the snowpack. And then finally, instabilities within the storm snow. So when we have breaks, so it didn't snow continuously during this whole storm. We had a couple small breaks, and sometimes those breaks between storms can create instabilities. And then warming temperatures on Thursday definitely led to some instabilities within the storm snow. So in these weekend updates, we're always excited to show you some eye candy of recent avalanches. And this is the best I got for you. You just see this small little avalanche here that released on the dividing ridge between the Big Wood and Titus Creek, coming off at Titus Ridge. So unfortunately, the areas that have been getting the most snow and are most likely to have the bigger, more dramatic avalanches, we've had exactly zero visibility. There have been a few small avalanches reported in the Wood River Valley. Those are, since there's been less new snow down there, those are primarily wind driven. And they're on the smaller side, but a few of them would have been big enough to bury or injure a person. So hopefully we'll have better luck tomorrow being Saturday and Sunday, as we are expecting better visibility. And we always like to go out and see the avalanche activity after these storms, because it really helps us make sense of what happened and the conditions going forward from these storm events. So looking into our weekend, looks like there's a high pressure ridge that's going to form in the wake of this cold front today. And we're going to, as a result of that high pressure ridge, we'll see decreasing clouds, increasing sunshine, but colder temperatures as well. So here's a forecast. I just pulled this for the Titus Ridge area up near Galena Summit. So we'll have a little bit colder temperatures, but increasing sunshine through the weekend. So really haven't had a whole lot of high pressure so far this winter. So the snowfall is awesome, but a little sunshine wouldn't hurt either. So after the storm, it's going to take a little while for things to calm down. And our primary concerns are going to be lingering unstable wind slabs. And with all the wind and new snow we've had, there's definitely some potential for some dangerously large wind slab avalanches out there. Also, the possibility of triggering a persistent slab or even a deep persistent slab. And in the Wood River Valley and in the Soldiers, those areas received less snow during this last storm. So that's probably a little bit less of an issue there. Our northern zones like the Sawtooth and Western Smokies and the Banner Summit area, that October weak layer near the ground is now buried, probably pushing 6 feet deep, possibly even more. So once the dust settles from the storm, we might find that in those areas, that weak layer may be finally getting close to being put to bed. But that kind of leaves Galena Summit and the Eastern Mountain Zone as sort of the monkey in the middle, where they have a pretty well-defined weak layer, and it is a little bit closer to the surface and possibly more easily accessible by our weight. So I found that on Titus Ridge today, buried just over 4 feet deep. but in areas of that zone, like in the boulders and pioneers, that's going to be buried less deep than that, more in the like probably 3-foot range. So still a possibility of triggering a pretty dangerously large persistent slab avalanche, especially in the wake of all this loading from the storm. And the next few days, there might be possibility of triggering a storm slab or a kind of smaller slab breaking on some more recently formed weak layers from like late December. So kind of remains to be seen whether or not that's an issue, but that'll be something to keep on our radar as we make sense of what's happening after this storm. So some takeaways from this update for the weekend. We do need some time for this the dust to settle from this big storm. We just added a lot of weight in the form of new snow and wind transported snow. So it's going to need some time. Steep wind loaded slopes remain the most dangerous. Those have had the most load added to them during the storm. And the safer and best skiing and riding conditions is on lower angled slopes in wind sheltered terrain. So there's a lot of great riding out there, a lot of great skiing. And as the storm snow settles, you won't need a real steep slope to enjoy that. So get out there and have a great weekend. And be sure to check the forecast before you go out each day at sawtoothavalanche.com. Final plug here is if you get out in the backcountry, please let us know what you're seeing out there. It's been interesting this year with the great snow conditions in the Wood River Valley. It seems like less people are traveling to get out and enjoy the snow, which makes sense if it's right there in your backyard. But we're really getting kind of a dearth of observations from the Sawtooth Zone, the Banner Summit area, and also the Western Smokies and area around Smiley Creek. So if you get out in any of those zones, please let us know what you're seeing. We're not going to give away your secret stash. You can keep it all a secret, but the information will help us make better forecasts, which will help all of you guys. So hope you guys have a great, safe weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the powder, and let us know what you see. Thanks for tuning in.